welcome to our lecture series on Indian ethos in management, and today we are going to extend our discussion on the very interesting topic of study of decision making and decision styles. This is going to be part 3 of our lectures on the same topic, wherein we started discussing about decision making and decision styles from the perspectives of Indian ethos, from the perspective of Indian style or Indian way of decision making. We also had a discussion about the matrix wherein we discussed about the key aspects of 4 types of processes. We had a discussion, we are going to discuss about framework to identify tendencies and decision styles, the MBA model, and eventually we will discuss about the 9 dimensional analysis. As I told you previously in the background that there was a model given by Rowe, wherein 4 basic decision styles were identified on the basis of 2 important dimensions, which are named as cognitive complexity and the personal values. So, when we talk about the cognitive complexity and personal values in terms of task or people orientation, that whether you are oriented towards the people who are working in your organization or you have orientation towards task. So, what is your personal value in terms of task orientation or people orientation, or a combination of both. So, on the basis of these 4 these values, on the basis of these 2 dimensions, there are 4 basic decision styles which were given by the Rowe, and Rowe tried to explain that cognitive complexity was dichotomized in terms of high or low. High cognitive complexity, when we show there, it indicates about greater thinking orientation. When you are talking about high cognitive complexity, it gives a reflection of the higher level of thinking orientation, that you are very much thinking about your orientation towards thinking, and low cognitive complexity indicates towards greater action orientation. So, whether you are thinking oriented or you are action oriented, accordingly Rowe tried to define in terms of high and low, that if whether you are in the bracket of high cognitive complexity or you are in the segment of low cognitive complexity, accordingly your orientation will change from thinking orientation to action orientation. But both are significant, thinking orientation and action orientation, both are important. And in this way, the author proposed 4 basic decision styles which were named as directive, analytical, conceptual and behavioral. That whether your decision style is directive, whether you are using it as a directive, or you are analytical into your decision making, that you first analyze and then you take a decision, or your decision making gives a reflection of your conceptual backing, that you are very much of that nature wherein you conceptualize your decision and then you implement. And last one is behavioral, that which is talking about the behavioral aspect of your decision style. So, the 4 basic decision styles, they are labeled as directive, analytical, conceptual and behavioral. And as I told you that according to its nature, it is either giving an orientation of left brain, or it is giving an orientation of right brain. If it is of left brain orientation, then of course it is task oriented, and right brain, it means it is human oriented, that you are talking about the human behavior or the people oriented, or those who are working with you. And in the order of cognitive complexity, it can be high or low, and accordingly your decision style will be analytical, conceptual, directive and behavioral. I told you briefly about this matrix in the previous lecture, but just to give you a recapitulation, I thought of showing this particular matrix in front of you, so that we can draw a comparison, that getting aligned with this Rowe's cognitive contingency model, wherein Rowe tried to draw a line between the task oriented people and human oriented people, those who are taking their decision or making their decision in terms of task orientation or human orientation. Accordingly, in terms of cognitive complexity, that is high or low, it will give us it will lead us to the analytical, conceptual, directive or behavioral style of decision making. Now, when we talk about the framework to identify tendencies, the Rowe's model can also be presented using the idea of tendencies. Some of the researchers, they have explained this in terms of using the idea of tendency, to which we in Hindi we call it pravritti, the way you actually respond to a particular situation. So, what is your tendency towards dealing with the situation, towards dealing with the contingent problem? Whenever you come across that, what is your standpoint when you have to make a decision or take a decision? So a framework of decision style using Rose model as a basis, it can be of utmost importance for the corporate managers, by that they can combine this Rose model along with the idea of tendency, and they can prepare a framework. So this framework identifies the various tendencies which at times individuals develop as a result of their either their training or their experience, education and socialization processes, or all of them. Some people, they whatever the way I respond to a particular situation, it actually comes from my education, my training, the kind of experience I am combining with, I'm bringing with myself, the socialization process, how much I socialize and with what kind of people I come across or I interact with. Accordingly, my tendency would be defined. So this framework is very much helpful in doing this kind of identification, where various tendencies which individuals or corporate managers, to be very precise, they develop as a result of their education, or what you can call it as a background. When I say background, this word background can very well combine all these traits, that it is your training, it is your experience, it is your education, it is the process, the way you socialize, the kind of people you are with, accordingly your tendencies would be defined. So if we have to find out, we have to classify the decision styles in terms of tendencies. Either my tendency would be of controlling nature, that I actually try to control the situation, I try to believe that unless I put a control, I cannot manage. In that case, I will be very much procedural, and my decision would always be in terms of orders, to which you can call as Adesh, that either I would be trying to give an order, I would or I would try to give an instruction. But suppose if my tendency is towards caring, or I believe in maintaining my cordial relationship with the subordinates, or with the peers who are working in my organization. So in that case, my total behavior, total decision style will be based on the behavior, that is called as Vyavahar. So when we have to define tendencies and decision styles, either it would be scientific analytic type of decision, wherein I would go for doing the vislation, I would go for doing the analysis. Or suppose if I am intuitive, or I believe into holistic way of managing or taking a decision, then of course I would be behaving like a drishta, the person who is actually having a holistic view of the entire situation. That is why we call them drishta. So either it would be analysis, or it would be the holistic view, or it would be orders, or it would be behavior. So the four dimensions, or four types of decision styles which were defined by Rowe, they can also be classified in terms of tendencies and decision style like this, that either my tendency is of doing over analysis, whether I am a type of manager where I do over analysis, or I am a manager who believes into the holistic development of the organization. In that case, I would be very much intuitive in my decision style. But suppose if I believe in controlling, putting my control, exercising my control, I want to dictate my terms, then of course my decision style would always have those words, that you are hereby instructed, you are hereby given the orders, or I am the competent authority. The competent authority feels that. So these kind of words or statements, when they come to us, they are actually giving a reflection of the Adesh, the order, that the person who is making a decision, the decision maker, it reflects the complete personality of that the person who is giving that decision, who is giving those instructions. They would always try to put a control, and would try to show that they have the power. So that kind of reflection you would find in their decision style. They believe that unless I give an order, unless I show my power, my subordinates will not work. Wherein the caring or relational decision style will always talk about maintaining a cordial relationship. They would always try to make a request. They would always talk about the Pratham Sevak or the Pradhan Sevak. They would never talk about the orderly people, that you are the orderly people and I am giving the orders. So see, the entire perspective becomes very different when your tendency is reflected in your decision style. When we find a reflection of your tendency, that you are of caring nature, or you believe into maintaining the relationship, so you would never try to give any order. nor you would try to do over analysis or what we call as Vishleshan. You can be a drishta, you can be a person who believes into a cordial relationship. So, this tendency and decision style framework can be of utmost importance for corporate managers nowadays. And here we talk about the task oriented. Again, our orientation is either towards task or towards human oriented. So, my dear learners, when we teach this decision style from the perspective of Indian ethos in management, here I would like to show you a differentiation. I would like to help you in marking a line of difference between the idea which was given by the Rowe and what we are discussing right now. So, if you find that a person is very much having a tendency of controlling, or scientific analytic nature is being reflected, then of course that person can get the work done. They are task oriented, so task can be accomplished. You give them a task that in these 8 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours, I want this work to be done, that would be done. But they would never be able to maintain a cordial relationship with their subordinates. You would never find that holistic development of the organization. So, it can be the managers who resort to this kind of decision style, which is task oriented, it can be of benefit for short run. But for long run, or if you talk about the holistic development of the organization, then of course it is the human orientation which is going to help us. So, my dear learners, in this way we understand that cognitive complexity remains the same. It is high and low in different segments of this quadrant, but you would find that if you move towards, if you shift from task orientation to human orientation, then of course you are not only achieving the goals, but simultaneously you are maintaining a cordial relationship with your subordinates. So, what is wrong when I can get my work done by maintaining a caring and relational, resorting to a caring and relational approach with my subordinates? So, what is the point of showing that power? What is the point of showing that I can control? Why to control? The entire organization should have this feel that we all are dealt at par with. Everyone is significant in this entire chain. So, when we are working as a family, then of course our orientation would be different. And this is the beauty of servant leadership. Servant leadership says that you are actually trying to serve, not to dictate. You have authority, but you don't show it. You have authority, but you always talk about responsibility first. And when you have this kind of thinking and action into your behavior, then only you can utter out the word like the Pratham Sevak or the Pradhan Sevak. Otherwise, you would always talk about your authority, you will always talk about giving adesh, giving orders. So, this is the beauty of Indian ethos in management when it comes to take a decision, to make a decision. So, imagine the analysis, the cognitive complexity remains the same, orientation also remains the same. The only difference is of your tendency, whether your tendency is of dictating, controlling, or your tendency is of caring or maintaining relationship. So, this is going to actually change the entire situation, the entire discourse. Now, when we talk about this decision style, a model comes in front of us, which is known as the MBA model. Now, this in addition to this decision style models which we have discussed so far, some new models they have been proposed drawing from Indian insights to managerial issues, that whenever you are having some problem in front of your company, your organization, then how to deal with that by using Indian insights to managerial issues. So, Sharma in 1996, he is an author, he has proposed the MBA model, which is known as Manas, Buddhi and Ahankar. Manas, Buddhi and Ahankar model of decision styles. Manas, Buddhi and Ahankar, these three are basically the Hindi terms taken from the Hindi language. Manas, Buddhi and Ahankar, and they talked about the MBA model. So, drawing upon Patanjali's cognitive inference system, this model views decisions in terms of either manas driven or manas driven, which is giving a reflection of heart and mind. When I say manas or manas, it indicates towards heart and mind. When I talk about buddhi, it indicates towards intellect driven. And when I talk about ahankar, it gives a reflection of ego driven decisions, So whether your decision is driven by intellect, or it is driven by ego, or it is driven by your heart and mind. This is what this MBA model explains to us or puts in front of us. Imagine that we talk about the manas, buddhi and ahankar. We talk about the heart and mind, intellect and ego in terms of our decisions. We classify our decisions on the basis of driving forces behind that. Whether my decision is being instigated by my heart and mind, or I am using my intellect only, or I am so egoistic that I have taken this decision. At times we find some orders which has no relevance, at all. And we if we ask ourselves, or even if we ask the person who has issued that instruction, that for what this instruction has come, you would find no meaningful answer to that question. And even the person who is responding knows that my answer is not sufficient justification. It is not going to justify it sufficiently, but still out of their ego, since the decision is driven by ego, that decision comes in front of us. So this MBA model can be used to develop a typology of decisions. You can develop a typology of your decisions which you are taking. So we can draw a comparison with the earlier models with that of this MBA model, which is giving a reflection of Indian insight for decision making. So the equivalent decision style in terms of Rose framework, it can be given here. Manas driven decision style, when I say Manas, I talk about the heart and mind. So the decisions which are driven by heart and mind, they would be equivalent to conceptual and behavioral combination. That it is a combination of a decision which is coming from conceptual clarity and behavioral orientation. A combination of these two are giving a reflection of Manas driven decision style. So you are applying your mind as well as your heart. So you are being rational, but you are also maintaining your emotionality, your caring nature with your subordinates. So if it is Manas driven, that is why it is not written mind driven, or it is not written that it is driven by the mind only. It is driven by mind and heart both. And when we say heart, it actually indicates towards your caring or relational motive. So it means it is having a behavioral orientation. So, and the buddhi driven style, which is actually the intellect driven style, it is essentially the analytical decision style. When I say that it is driven by intellect, it is essentially the analytical decision style, that you are analyzing a particular situation, and after doing that careful analysis based on the facts and figures, this decision has come out. So that is called analytical decision style, and from Indian perspective, it can be called as buddhi driven or intellect driven style. The managers with directive decision styles, they are likely to be high on usage of ahankar driven decision style, which is known as ego driven decision style. And as I told you earlier, that whenever you find a letter which says that you are being directed, or the authority feels that, it means it is basically driven by that ego. And even the drafting of that letter gives the reflection of, it is going to provide you the complete sketch of the person who is signing that letter, who is issuing that order. So the managers with directive decision styles, they are likely to be high on usage of ego driven decision style, and that is why it is called as ahankar driven decision style or ego driven decision style. So this was a kind of comparison which we could draw between the MBA model and that of Rose model, which talked about the different types of decisions which we have to take. So my dear learners, we have to understand that the decision making is something which is omnipresent in all functions of management, and this is why I thought it pertinent to have a discussion on this topic. So if you talk about the word decision making, you would find it present in all functions of management. So you name a function of a management and it requires some kind of decision making, and this decision making is going to give a reflection of the tendency which you have. And that is why we had a discussion on the Western models, and we drew a comparison between the Western models and that of the Indian models, so that we can understand the difference. So the perspective remains the same. in both the situations. We are having our orientation towards task, we are not compromising with the accomplishment of task. We do have that human orientation, cognitive complexity remains the same, but it is only towards the kind of decision we are taking, the kind of tendencies we are reflecting, and again the very personality of that person, the leader, the manager becomes very important here. Because whatever decision you are taking, you would always bring, you will always put in front of us your own personal tendency, your own personal behavior. The entire personality of manager comes in front of us, and when we find a letter which is either task oriented or human oriented. So, whether it is analytical or it is holistic or it is orderly or it is behavioral, it is reflected, and in the same order it shows the high and low cognitive complexity. So, this MBA model gives us a fair idea about the way it can be man buddhi, manas buddhi and ahankar model, which says that your decisions may either be driven by your mind and heart, that is represented by manas, that is manas. Second is your buddhi, that is your intellect, and third one is your ego, that is being reflected in terms of ahankar in this very model by the author. So, this MBA model gives us an idea the way Indian style can be used for decision making. Now, when we talk about the decision styles, the nine dimensional analysis comes in front of us. It may be indicated that essence of management lies in the interrelated processes, which I am going to tell you that what are those interrelated processes where the essence of management lies. The first is the visioning and envisioning at the strategic level, that you have to decide your vision of the organization, that for what we are, asking a question to the organization that for what our existence is. By are we there to merely make profit or something beyond that? So, that vision or envisioning at the strategic level is the first one. Second one is decision making at the managerial level, problem solving at the operational level, and finding solution at all levels. So, we have to in the entire discourse of management, somehow in one way or the other we have to find solution at all levels, whether it is strategic level or it is managerial level or it is operational level. At all levels we have to find solution, and that is the essence of management. And these processes, they are interrelated. When we are solving problem at operational level, again we are finding solution at this level. When I am making a decision at managerial level, again I am trying to find a solution at this level for the problems which may come. When I am doing the visioning and envisioning at the strategic level, again I am trying to ensure that the problems should not arise at any level, or even if they arise, how to deal them in a better manner. That is something which we are going to decide when we decide our vision. When we are clear with our vision, then of course there is nothing which can stop us. So, the essence of management lies in these four interrelated processes which I put in front of you, that you have to find solution at all levels. Crux of the story is that we have to find solution at all levels. A manager has to integrate these processes if they really wish to be effective. Can you name a manager who is not willing to be effective and efficient? Of course, there is no one. A manager has to integrate these processes in order to be effective, and this visioning and envisioning requires a manager to be creative, and that is why it is the person is supposed to be strong in conceptual skills. Unless you are conceptually clear, unless you have the conceptual clarity, you cannot decide a vision for your organization. So, you have to be creative enough to design, to craft and draft your vision of the organization. Decision making, particularly in unstructured situations where you do not know that this kind of problem can also come, and I may have to take this decision also. So, decision making, particularly in unstructured situations, they require a lot of intuition and creativity in addition to rationality. You do have rationality, but you require a lot of intuition and creativity for certain unstructured situations when you have to make a decision. And in structured situations, then of course the rationality is always there with you, while in unstructured situations there may be need to break the rationality wall, which is known as bounded rationality. From here only we got this idea of bounded rationality, where the managers may build around, which managers may build around themselves. So, problem solving at operational level requires analytical and behavioral approach. So, my dear learners, in this way I tried to give you a different perspective of decision style and tendencies from the perspective of Indian ethos in management. I hope you must have enjoyed today's lecture of mine. Thank you so much.